So I'm convinced that cinematic video is all about focus. You know, I talked about yesterday, we're working on this short film, and the things that we talked about that are missing from a lot of people's films are set design and good sound design. So I started to think about why it might be that those two things really make as big of a difference as they do. And what I saw it coming down to is focus. And not necessarily the same focus that's on a camera, but it's the same concept. I mean, think about it. What's in focus in the frame is going to be the focus of the viewer's mind. So in the portion of that film that I showed on my video yesterday that you can find on my channel, we actually pulled focus to change the viewer's focus from the folder to Joram's character's face and back to the folder. It's a very direct call to the viewer of what should be in focus. But I like to think a lot about the subconscious of the viewer of video content, and really how subtle things like really good color correction or really good sound design or set design really live in the subconscious of the viewer. So I really see the job of the video creator to make their video content as easy to understand as possible, almost automatic, without the viewer really having to think much about it. And really, if you do some reading from some neuroscientists and people who study the brain, they'll say that the brain's primary goal is to keep us alive. And part of that is to conserve calories. So our brain is automatically constantly deciding what's important and what is not. And if it's not considered important to our minds, we're not going to pay attention, we're not going to remember it. So when we're creating videos, we really want to make it as clear and as focused as possible, exactly what we're trying to communicate. That's where all of those really subtle aspects of making great video content come in. You know, we're trying to make something that just is really easy to understand, that really guides our viewer to exactly the place that we want them to be. Let me put it another way. Have you ever been in a situation with some other people where you notice some things about something in your surroundings that they didn't notice, and they notice something that you didn't notice? That's our brains figuring out what's important to you and what is not. So that same thing works its way into set design. You know, you want everyone who's sitting in the theater to have the exact same experience, to notice the exact same things in the frame as the person sitting next to them. So really, set design a lot of times is really about simplifying a set more than maybe it would be in real life. So maybe you have a set of a bedroom and it's not completely realistic to what that bedroom would be like in real life, but it lends itself more to the story and really to accomplish whatever the director and that studio set out to do in the first place, and also to not set off the subconscious of the viewer. You know, every single scene has to be believable in the context of the whole movie. And for sound design, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of being maybe at a wedding in a big chapel. At first, when you walk in, you notice how echoey the sound is and how there's sound bouncing all over the room. But your brain does a pretty good job of pretty quickly filtering that out. It's hard for our brains, it's physically exhausting to be able to filter all that out. When we're making our films, why would we want the actual natural sound when you're gonna have to make your viewer work that much harder to filter out the sounds that aren't relevant to the actual story? Rather than being able to actually design that sound and make it almost more realistic than it actually would be. You know, you're taking out the extra wind noise, you're accentuating the things that really need to be clear to the viewer, and you're making it really much easier for the viewer to actually understand, and you're leading them right to where you want them to get to in the end. And I think over the last couple years, people have become really obsessed with talking about story over equipment. And I think that's a really healthy thing. I think there's been this kind of consumeristic obsession with having the best gear or having the best value gear, when that doesn't really make as much of a difference. You know, you really can shoot really high quality stuff on a phone, but it might mean that you're being more careful with the set design and you're recording all of your audio after the fact to make sure that it's really clear. You know, you can really shoot some amazing stories, but I think that both set design and sound design are really underutilized and not talked about enough. All right, that's it from me. I hope that you got something out of this, and I hope that this was, you know, clear and easy to understand. You know, I'm working on that as well. Thank you for your patience, and I will see you first thing in the morning for another video.